I just want to check, are we recording? Because that's the most important question. We're recording, so this is actually a podcast and not just three people talking randomly into microphones. All right, so a couple of questions to start with. First is, has anyone listened to the podcast before? Don't be, oh wow, decent, okay, great. Glad to have everyone here, and to new listeners, we'll give you our cell to listen later. But I'm Sunil Rajaraman. I'm co-host of this podcast. This is Your Life in Silicon Valley, and Yasha Kakis-Wolf is my co-host. We've been doing this for about a year now. We've done 30 shows, and we're pleased today to welcome a very special guest, Yasha.
Amanda.
Hello, everyone.
We're just going to stare at you and make it uncomfortable.
It's like Madonna.
Yeah. So the kind of backstory, and what's important for everybody that's in the audience to know, is that this podcast is not a pitch for a product. It's not about a company. It's about the Bay Area. And the Bay Area is kind of special, but it's also a little bit fucked up. And I think we all kind of understand that being here. So what we want to do in the podcast is talk to people who have a very special and unique relationship with the Bay Area, and that are creators, that are company builders, that are awesome entrepreneurs, that are just really cool and interesting people. And today we are really, really lucky to have an absolutely amazing entrepreneur and also pretty heavy hitter in the technology scene, and a very specific and very special category of technology that Sunil really, really likes, the world of dating.
Yeah. So it's funny, the backstory to this is Yasha and I have both been married, long time?
Long time.
And we have this weird fascination with online dating because we see a lot of people going through it, and it's a baffling world. And so, and I want to demystify it a bit with Amanda Bradford today, the founder, CEO of The League.
You guys are like all of the married people looking at the single people in the petri dishes.
So I've done the thing where we went through it with the single friends who have the apps swiping through on their behalf. It's sort of like a weird thing.
We're like a different species, aren't we?
It's really confusing. And as a married person, you don't really want to install the apps on any of your devices. It just doesn't feel right?
It won't look good to your significant other.
Not at all. So here's the thing. We're going to talk about dating in the Bay Area today. But before we even get into that, Amanda, can you tell us where you grew up? Are you a California native?
I'm Bay Area native. So yeah, Fremont, if anyone's from Fremont. Lived there from 0 to 3rd grade, I guess. Went to Austin, Texas, and then Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So did a little lap around the U.S.
And in that lap around the U.S., as you were in Austin and in Chapel Hill, that entire time were you like, I really want to just get back to the Bay Area? Has the Bay Area always called to you?
Well, I feel like I was at my most creative in the Bay Area. I remember you get to go to school outside in the Bay Area, which is cool. You realize that going to the East Coast, that's not a normal thing. And yeah, I think my dad was in technology. I think we were the first family in the Bay Area to even have, I think back then it was pre-Palm Pilot, it was called like the Einstein or something. We had the very first iPhone from the 90s, and we were on CompuServe and Prodigy and ICQ, and so I knew all this stuff because I had 2 older brothers. So I remember my friends were always like, "You're really into tech and social networks." I was social networking at a young age. Lisa knows my story about Internet Amanda. I stalked everybody in Texas before I moved there on AOL Buddy Chat, and basically created a group of friends before I landed into North Carolina. So I've always liked technology, and this is where it's built. So it made sense to come back.
And when you came back, what was your angle back in? Did you say, I'm going to go to school here, I'm going to move back here and start a company? Like, why come back here? What was the driver for you?
Marc Benioff got me back here. Well,
yeah.
I wish I could say it was personal. But no, his company, Salesforce, recruited us out of Carnegie Mellon, and so I was deciding between going to New York and working in finance and with Excel, and then I came out to San Francisco, and they took us on a duck tour around the Bay Area, and everyone was doing yoga in these rooms painted orange. And I had just been to Citigroup, where everyone was so miserable and pale and crying into their hands at 11 at night, and I was like, I think I'm just going to take a pay cut and come to the West Coast. Is the best coast. So I made a call in 21. And so I moved out here, and almost all of the Carnegie Mellon people went to New York, so it was kind of the place to be at that point in 2007. Then the financial crisis hit, so I actually had made the right call.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I like to say Salesforce was, at that point, that was 2007, so SaaS was just taking off, and all this really exciting things are happening. And Marc's also very good at delivering Kool-Aid to drink. So I'm very much a Salesforce fangirl through and through.
So for our listeners who, surprisingly enough, aren't all in tech, can you define what SaaS is and talk about who Marc Benioff is? I think many people know who Marc Benioff is, just as a breather.
I know, I'm going to give some spotlight to Mark, who brought me out to San Francisco. So they built CRM, which is customer relationship management. So if anyone's who's done sales, that's sort of the main software you use to track your leads and to close deals. And his big innovation was putting it online. Before that, everything was on premise. And so he was very much a pioneer, and kind of what I feel like what we're doing into the mobile space with dating is similar to what he did with software, bringing it to the cloud, is that it was always on premise, he brought it to the cloud. Dating was always on website, now we're bringing it to mobile. So he's very much kind of brought tech into the 21st century.
Yeah. So audience participation time. So we have a live audience of about 2,000 people. Yeah. We need an audience photo shot later, which we're going to tweet out. How many people here have tried online dating? Okay, so just keep your hands up. Keep your hands up, actually, please.
Great.
Just hang on a second. So we got about 1,000 hands up. Of the people who have tried online dating, keep your hands up if you're happy with online dating. Wow. So about 750 to 800 of the hands
just
went
dropped
down.
off, gone.
Just dropped off. Amanda.
Online dating has a very low NPS score as a category.
So Amanda, what is wrong with online dating? Explain it to us. Is it the apps? Is it something about us that's changing? Just do your best summary of what's wrong with online dating.
Well, it's a big question. I think so. You asked, and you had sent me a question asking, "Is it broken?" And I actually don't think it's broken. I think broken implies that it doesn't work at all, and you can't use it to kind of get to your final goal, which I think you can. I think there's plenty of people who have had success on online dating, so it is possible. I think it's just massively, massively inefficient. And now that it's the kind of main way people are meeting and the other channels are sort of breaking down, I think the inefficiency is highlighted because now none of your friends are setting you up. It's not like you're meeting at parties anymore. Everyone's focused on just their phone and meeting through the phone. So I think it's amplified, the inefficiency.
So why did you decide that this was a problem that you wanted to focus on, and kind of explain what the league's approach is and why your approach is better?
Yeah, well, I was single after 5 years, and I was like dipping my toe back into the dating pond, and I downloaded, OkCupid. I think Hinge was just coming out. Bumble, I don't think it had come out yet, but I had the same issues with each and every app, which was it was like pretty much anonymous. You could basically say you were whoever you wanted to be. You could put any picture, you could say you went to whatever school. There was no layer of authenticity. And then you also, there was also a lot of vetting. Like you don't list your profession or education or anything, so I'd have to go and stalk all these men and be like, oh, he's wearing a Duke shirt. Okay, maybe he went to Duke, and so I'd go onto LinkedIn and be like, Matt, Duke, maybe like class of 26, or so I'd start looking through the graduation year. If you have LinkedIn Premium, you can do that. And so that was like, I was starting to vet before I decided if I wanted to go on these dates, because I was living in Palo Alto at the time, so it was like, an hour and 15 minutes just to even get to the date. So I was like, you need to do some diligence to make sure that's going to has a good probability of being an okay date. So I would find myself doing a lot of stalking and vetting is what I call it. So I felt like, why not just use LinkedIn as part of the onboarding experience and make it a community where people are who they say they are. There's this authenticity. There's this sort of handshake agreement that everybody is not gonna be anonymous or make up fake profiles. And I wanted to use it to find myself the best match and have the best database.
And so critics might say the exclusivity, that kind of can rub people the wrong way.
Well, the exclusivity was my way to solve what the issue is with online dating in general, which is it's just this huge race to the bottom. As soon as you open any community that's open, it's like Twitter is a perfect example of this. It's like there's amazing, smart, really intelligent people on Twitter, and then there's like terrible trolls of humans that like nobody wants on their community, right? So it's like, okay, well, what if we create a community with a wall at the beginning, and we make you have to kind of climb the wall to get in? Maybe we can create a community that doesn't have these like kind of negative group of people that tend to bring down a lot of social networks. So that was like one of the design decisions to kind of prevent some of the issues with online dating.
As a person who never dated or found a match through an online site, the idea that dating is about being more efficient feels really weird.
Yeah, it's not a romantic way to say it, I know. I get feedback on that a lot, but
And how do you respond to that feedback? If I'm giving
I
you
just
that feedback
I grew
right
up
now.
in sales. I think in pipelines, it is, I consider it's a process. It's a funnel. It's just like any other sales process, but it isn't. You're right. It isn't the most romantic way to say it.
So can we talk about efficiency of successful matches in the league in the Bay
Yeah.
Area? Like what city, what neighborhood in what city is the most efficient at finding matches?
The most
on the league?
efficient. Well, so we can look at popularity. So popularity is a number that is very correlated to number of matches, because if you have a high popularity, that means when you like someone, you have a high chance that they're going to like you back, right? So that's we call the kind of like high, people with high league scores is what we call them. And so they do tend to grab, I mean, like the marina, we looked at like who are our most popular users lived, and lo and behold, they lived
Why
in the
so
marina.
many giggles in the audience when you say the marina?
And then you could see them starting to gravitate towards Hayes when Hayes became cool. But it was, I mean, it's definitely, you can see some of the stereotypes of the city through the dating, which is quite hilarious. You can see San Jose has like not as many women, and you're like, oh, if only I could move these neighborhoods next to each other.
So is this kind of like depressing and boring? I feel like I didn't miss anything. What you're saying is this is like a numbers game. This is a massive numbers game. Is that really what it is? Is it's about just reaching out to as many people as possible? Like, give me the hopeful case on this.
Well, I mean, you can, again, call me unromantic, but I do think it is a numbers game. I think you have to kiss X number of frogs to know, to notice the person's a prince and to know what you're looking for. And I think the other point to your question is more societal, is that a lot of people are dating, but they don't know what they're looking for, and they don't really know what it is they want. And there's both people on both sides of that equation, like searching but not knowing what they want. So it kind of it convolutes the whole process. It's not like both people are like, I want to buy a house with 4-car garage and this, and this, and then it's just a simple matching problem. It's like, no, I want this, but then I'm saying that, but then I'm rejecting people that I said they want. So you kind of see humans' inconsistencies and their own biases.
So your boyfriend is in the audience. Lovely gentleman. Met him earlier. You want to wave? Just
No,
no,
he
no
doesn't.
wave. You gotta put him on.
I
the
was
spot
not,
a little
yeah.
bit. How many
This is not part of
people? How did you find your match on the league?
Well, I was pulling my phone out because I was going to say, like, it is a numbers game in the sense that I did this presentation at the Battery the other week about why video is so interesting to us, because when you put together two people on a video chat, you don't have to do any of the messaging. You skip all the kind of games. You're all of a sudden you're almost on a date. And so I was saying that if people could just meet on video for 2 minutes, you could basically disrupt the whole kind of static image dating industry as it is. And so I was looking at Jeremy and I's stats and how many people we had to talk to and how many people we had to engage and meet. And it is a numbers game. It was pretty funny because it was like, I think I had, well, he doesn't like hearing this, but I had 946 matches in the 4 years that, I mean, granted, I'm a power user. But if you actually like go down the funnel, it's like I actually only met 6 of those people in person, right? Of that entire, so granted, I'm kind of a weird outlier person, but like for him, he had 143 matches. He met 4 people in person. So it's like, it is. I mean, that's sad. That's a sad stat. It makes the league sound bad. But then we actually reran the study on like Hinge and some of these other sites, and it's the same story. It's like just because you have a match doesn't mean you're going to actually meet them in person. There's like a long journey between that. So that's why I think I'm really bullish on video, kind of almost leapfrogging the whole thing.
Shouldn't the selection process in the front of the league make that top of the funnel better?
It is. But you still have. I mean, there's still all these other things that have to fall in place, right? Both people have to. First, you have to respond. Someone has to message, right? So half the matches don't even message, nobody. So that's just weird, right? But it's just window shoppers, or sometimes people are like, they're not really dating, but they kind of want to check it out. So that's just part of, we call them like in the dating space, it's like those are the window shoppers that you just like, you're always going to have those people, right? They just aren't going to message. They don't really match. They just kind of want to see. And then you have the people that are going to message. And then you have some people that just won't send the first message. So there's like some group of women that just refuse to send the first message. And then there's a group of men that will just send everybody the same message. And,
oh my God, Sunil, this sounds horrifying.
And then there's some people that just send their phone number out as if that's like a good opener. So it's like you kind of have all these different personas like different people trying different strategies. But at the end of the day, it's like there's so many things that have to fall in place for it to happen that I think I'm always encouraging my girlfriends, like, open your preferences, open your mind, say yes more than you say no. You can always like say no later. It's not like there's nothing wrong with being open-minded at the beginning and then being more filtered towards like who you want to pick as your boyfriend, but you don't need to be so like selective at the top of the funnel, because it's like there's all these other conversion rates that have to go right. So I'm trying to explain it as a funnel to my friends, and I'm like, you each have your own funnel of different conversion rates, and some people are really good at converting the message to the phone number, and then some people are really good at getting the like, but then they don't engage with messages. So everybody has their like different strengths in the dating app game.
So I guess, what are some tips? Let's just walk away with a takeaway or two. If there's one or two things that people who are having trouble with online dating remember from this podcast, what is it? Is it update your profile picture to something realistic?
Well,
is it change the tagline? What are a couple of things that people can do to improve their chances of finding that person or whatever it is they're looking for?
Well, I mean, the photo, as much as I hate to say that because it sounds like we live in this superficial society, but we do. And I thought the photo, it doesn't mean you need to be like this golden ratio attractive person. It's just like put a nice quality photo up there, like a high res.
I just want to say I never expected golden ratio to be
Well,
used on the
I mean,
podcast.
it's like, look at Sunil's face. He's kind of got
He
the
has
golden
a
ratio.
beautiful golden ratio.
Yeah.
But
Triangle, whatever it is.
You're blushing.
keep going. Okay,
He's
so
like-
the picture.
You'd have a high league score, Sunil. But so yeah, I mean the photo is the
Wait,
easiest.
can we talk about that for a second? Because
No.
Sunil and I were driving over here together. He picked me up from the office in his minivan. And as we
that
were
might knock
driving
your
over,
league score down
let's
a
be
little
clear. Like, I've got 3 kids, and our cars are a mess all the time too. So as we're sitting in the car, we're looking at each other. We're like, would we pass the filter test to get into league?
Well, I'd have to see
Would
your
Sunil?
photo.
If we were
I
just,
don't- listen, we're
Let's
not
see your
going.
headshot.
We're not
Yeah.
going here.
Let's look up his headshot on LinkedIn.
I think you could get on. Maybe. Well, actually, where are your matching people? Do you keep them in the same group with Facebook out in some other country, and they review from there Sunil's social profile?
We have a concierge team that's remote, so
Ah.
we don't disclose where they live. They live all over and nowhere.
Okay, so picture. Going back, let's focus,
Yes.
Yasha.
We're focusing. Okay, well, the number one takeaway
Minivan.
is just have a high quality photo, high res. Even actually with the iPhone X, the whatever profile mode is called profile.
Portrait.
Portrait mode.
Yep.
So that's just like everybody should do that, because that's just you're hurting yourself if you're putting like a fuzzy photo. It's just like the very basic thing. Like, use a high quality photo, high res. Second would be, well, I guess I don't want to say it in a negative way, but a lot of people they write as if they're searching for an apartment. And it's like looking for this, and this, and I don't like when you eat, meat or whatever. And it's like, it's very much a turnoff in as far as they're trying to describe their perfect human, and then, so I think there's a lot of times it's like maybe describing yourself and talking about, who you are versus what you're looking for. I think that tends to be a mistake I see.
And then the other thing I see everybody, who I know who has an online dating profile, it's like, loves to travel. I love to travel, right? I love to travel. There's a few other things that are always in there, right? It's,
well, those, yeah.
I'm a foodie, sarcasm and wit. If you can handle sarcasm and wit, you can handle,
But
what are some other, yeah.
the
I think your
sarcasm
profile
in
is
it-
great, Sunil. I really do.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's an
We
awesome
should
profile.
we should review it now.
This is not
It's
going
like,
in a
this is
direction
becoming the
where,
Sunil show. But that brings up the third point, which is wit and humor and being kind of interesting in your profile. A lot of people not only describe their perfect person, they do it in a very not fun or funny way. And it's like, so I think using wit, using humor, putting something that people can respond to in their message, that's always, we find that the most unique thing someone says is usually what is getting sent out as your first opener. So if you say something like, I don't know, we always say, the one we put on our poster for the league is a guy saying, first I'm gonna get close to you, then I'm gonna get even closer to your family and steal them from you, or something kind of weird, but kind of creepy but funny. And then the women all are like, oh, I thought, they'll make a comment about how they wouldn't like my brother or whatever. So I guess long story short, just being creative in what you're saying allows people to kind of latch on to something to say, instead of being like, oh, you like to travel, where to?
So if you were to move to the Bay Area again right now, and the league was already up and running, and you couldn't move to the marina, where would
Okay.
you move to?
LA. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I would stay in San Francisco. I mean, I guess right now we live somewhat close to Hayes, and it seems like it's becoming it's a very small but cool spot. So it's nice and central. It doesn't have a stereotype quite yet. So.
But LA. So what you're bashing on the Bay Area? You don't like the Bay Area?
Well, no,
You tired of it?
I found my boyfriend in LA for a reason. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a real
No,
thing
I'm not
here.
bashing on the San Francisco. I just think, for me at least, I'm in tech, and I think about startups 100% of the time, and then I was dating people that were in tech and thinking about startups 100% of the time, and every time my dating life felt more like a board meeting half the time, because everyone, what's your churn rates?
Yeah,
And you're
managing
like,
your funnel.
Can we really talking about our funnel at dinner? So I think for me, I was excited to kind of meet. I mean, one of the reasons what I built the league was to match kind of successful and interesting and creative people in all industries, not just the ones you meet every day. So I would have never met a musician probably in San Francisco. So I think, I think that's, for me, that was a learning I had from dating, having 942 matches, was that maybe I didn't want to date a tech, another person in tech.
Do you think that's more systemic here in the Bay Area? Do you think there's just fatigue generally of the types of people, the types of interests that are here?
I mean, we are a very homogeneous city, so it's hard to go anywhere without hearing people talk about cap tables or valuation or churn rates.
Back to the audience participation. I'm actually really curious about this thread. So for those of you who are online dating or single, would you view it, raise your hand if you would view it as a negative if someone were in tech. Would you view it as a negative if they said that they were in tech? That means everybody here is in tech.
There's
Hey.
literally one person out
I
of
feel like
2,000
you're
that raised
twisting
their
my
hand.
words, though. I'm not anti-tech.
Oh, no,
I was
I'm not
just-
suggesting you are. I was just more trying to, not at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
I was just really curious from an audience perspective,
like
just
my
because
tech
there is a
people.
lot of
I like my
stink
tech-
on the tech
No, I
industry
know.
right now.
No, it is, and we'll have users write in that are like, can you make it so that I don't see finance pros, or I don't see tech people, or I don't see, so everyone has their own baggage of what they think they need, or stereotypes that they like to put on people.
So with that filtering that exists in the league, do you see different groups of people? Is the same homogeneity in Los Angeles? Is the same in New York? Where are you? And is it different than the Bay Area?
Well, we do see that people in the same profession, so this is contrary to my own personal experience, but people in each other's professions tend to match. So, the tech does match with the tech, the lawyers match with the lawyers, the doctors match with the doctors. I think, obviously, there's common interests and common, understanding there. So we do see that, and especially in the Bay Area, we see a lot of just a lot of tech power couples, I guess, I would say, getting together.
Well, now, going back to, so you said some of the positive things that people should look for in profiles, but what about negatives, red flags? What are some things out of your own experience and through the league? If you see this, you should run. What are some examples of that?
Well, there's a lot, but we do try to screen a lot of those people out of the league, so I'm lucky not to have to see them too much. But obviously, you have your classic, people with people in photos with a ton of people in bikinis, and their keg stand wild party days. So you definitely have a lot of offenders like that that aren't using the most classy of photos. So we try to keep those people on the wait list and tell them to, no shirt, no shoes, no service. But I would say, the picture can really turn people off quickly. Even if you think it's no, that's my sister. You're I don't care that it's your sister. She's in a string bikini and it doesn't look good. Just don't put one of you in a girl. Pick one of you and your grandma. So it's pretty common sense stuff. And I would say the other thing is grammar is always just get a friend to grammar check about me, especially for the league, because people are very have high standards about grammar here. We get people writing in all the time. I can't believe you let this person in who wrote this, used your and your incorrectly, right? And so people get very, very fired up about that. So we try to encourage grammar checking now.
I'm curious. I'm just going to rattle off a few apps, and I'm curious. And you can be diplomatic if you want. We'll give you an opportunity to. But what do you think of a few of these apps? I'm just going to throw out a few names that I've heard. Raya.
Is this a word game? I just give you one word?
Yeah, you could do one word. You could do one sentence. You could do 2 sentences. You could do 2 minutes.
C-list Instagram micro-influencers.
Love it. Okay. I like where this is going. Tinder.
quick hookup.
Coffee meets bagel.
Dating.
That was the biggest non-answer in the history of our podcast. What audience members, which ones did I miss? What's a good one? Okay, Cupid.
Oh, kind of quirky. Quirky dating.
Quirky.
Like younger, millennial, not too serious dating, but, kind of like Marina Bro.
Okay. What else we got? Bumble.
This is hard. Now I'm feeling like this is, I don't know how I got into this. A fake startup.
Ooh.
I love it. All right. This is the kind of material that...
You told me to be honest.
Yeah,
You
no,
said people like
honesty's great.
authenticity, right?
That's what makes... We're trying to just keep the customers at Beta Brand happy.
Maybe we'll edit that out. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, what was the last one?
It was eHarmony, I believe. Dr. Neil Clark Warren, I remember those. He used to do like TV advertising back in the day.
Later stage marriage, like on your way out.
I've been to like 2 or 3 eHarmony weddings. Yasha met his wife on eHarmony.
Yeah, totally. I'm so old, those things didn't even exist.
Yeah, it's getting older and older, so you were probably more in its...
He didn't actually.
Its heyday. Its heyday wasn't always like that.
Back. Which one?
All right, that's the last one we're gonna do. But J Swipe was the audience.
I don't.
I'm shocked some of these are real things, by the way.
It's,
Exactly.
It's a mobile first J date. So that was their.
That's a very apt. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I guess niche. I'd call it niche.
Okay. All right. So where is this all headed? Okay. So 10 years from now, we have the league, we have Tinder, we have other stuff going on. Where do you see this heading? Like, what is online dating or AI dating or virtual reality dating or augmented reality dating? What is it in 10 years?
Oh yeah. No, I have a lot of visions.
Yeah.
about
Tell
this.
us.
It's just hard to execute on them because the technology's not all ready yet. I tried to do this. We actually tried to have a VR dating party last year, and the technology was too early. It did not work. We had like all sorts of logistical issues of getting people to connect. But basically, what I think is going to happen is that there's going to be kind of this blend between what FaceTime is doing, so video dating, plus AI dating, VR dating, where you feel like you're actually in 3D with someone and you're in the world with them. So we're like inching
Can we
our
talk
way.
about AI dating for a minute? What do you
Sure.
mean by AI dating?
Well,
VR, not
dating.
AI.
I don't know. Yeah.
AI would be like
AI dating sounds.
Sunil's representative
that sounds
AI
buzzwordy.
is
Yeah, that
dating
sounds buzzwordy.
on his behalf.
Well, AR. I said AR.
Okay.
But there is AI. I guess like they.
The algorithm.
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Everything's AI.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
an
not
algorithm.
real.
But
So like virtual reality weddings and things like that?
yeah,
Like,
well,
seriously?
not weddings.
No?
So
Okay.
what we tried to do, and we had a party in LA and San Francisco at the exact same time, and we had them both do an Oculus headset, and so we basically paired up a guy in LA with a girl in San Francisco and had them meet in the world, but they were both obviously not in the same city, and then they could go and explore the world and like check out the caves and the dungeons or whatever it was in that VR world. The VR world wasn't that great. It was still too new. I was like, I have a lot of ideas for how we can make this world a little cooler, because it's built by very early stage developers. So they're like, welcome to my world. It's a very weird experience trying it, but it made me very bullish on the fact that this is definitely going to be, if you can put on a headset and then you get to meet all your dates, and it looks like your dates, and it feels like your dates, and it's their voice, and it's their gestures, and it's what they look like on a first date. It's like there is going to be no first dates anymore. It'll all be second dates in person, right? So that's the vision.
Is that appealing?
It's more efficient, at least. I mean, I'm not judging whether. I mean, we're not doing it, so it's hard to know if it'll be better or worse. But I think it will definitely cut down on the time spent with people you wish you didn't have to spend time with, right? If you're like optimizing just on cutting out time spent with bad dates, I think it's a huge win.
Yeah. Well, we're actually getting close to time. Believe it or not.
We are. We're getting close. I just want the audience members to. We are going to have a little interesting audience participation segment. So, and this is completely not staged.
For all 1,000 people here.
For all, I think it was 2,000.
2,000,
right?
right?
But if anyone is brave enough to share an online dating story, we actually want to make this entire episode about online dating, and hopefully a good online dating story. Not, oh yeah, hey, we met online, the end, great, happily ever after. A good one. Just start thinking of it. We're going to call someone at random and interview them about it. Yeah. Okay. All right. But
before we wrap up, I wanted to tease a question to you, and then Sunil's going to ask a question. This is the same question that we end each of the podcast episodes on. So I want you to think about the social networks that you spend your time on. You can pick your own network if that's what you choose. And we're interested in you telling the listeners of the podcast, the people that are here in the live audience, who you would recommend they spend some time and listen to, where their attention should belong. So that's what we want to end on. So think about that, tease that a little bit. But before we go there, Sunil.
What am I supposed to do now? I forgot.
I just really one more time want to see if we think that Sunil's profile would do well on the league.
We want to create your
This
league
is
profile
honestly
and
getting a
test
little
it.
ridiculous, and I'm sweating like a pig up here, so this is just not working.
This
Hey,
is
your
hotter
people are
than-
going to really like your height. It's really popular.
He has the longest torso ever.
It's the legs that are longer.
This is just a long-running joke.
Okay, no, but let's. I have like one or two more questions for Amanda, if that's all right. So, okay. So your experience was a good one on the league, and presumably you want everybody to have a great experience on the league. But I'm sure you get this question asked all the time. But isn't there somewhat of an incentive for dating sites to remain on the dating sites, or people to remain on the dating sites? That natural, just kind of because if people are successful, they're going to move off. Can you just talk a little bit about that and your perspective on it?
It's the Achilles heel of our industry, but it is true. It is true. When you match people successfully, typically they don't stay on a dating app unless they have different hobbies and interests. But one of the things that we like to think is that that's like good churn, right? And so there's good churn, there's bad churn is like when you don't get any matches and you're like, this sucks. So what we try to do is really prevent bad churn. But good churn we celebrate, and we hope that, the way we think about it is if two people are having a wedding and there's 300 people at the wedding and they're writing that they met on the league, that's better marketing and advertising than we could do ourselves. So they kind of make up for those two lost spots by themselves, by the success of it.
Have there been a lot of league weddings? Or?
Yeah, well, we actually have more New York Times wedding announcements than Bumble, and they have like 100 times our user base. So it's
That's the fake startup one.
yeah. Well, that's why they have 100 times the user base. But
what's one thing that you can say that might be hopeful about online dating to the people who raised the audience or their hands in the audience, the 2,000 people, the 1,000 who said that they had bad experiences online, whatever it was. I'm forgetting my numbers now. What's a message of hope you could give them, and what will change about online dating that will make everybody raise their hands and say, wow, it's been a wonderful experience? Like, what has to change?
Yeah. Well, no, it made me sad that people aren't liking it, because I think it's so much better than it used to be. I mean, before online dating was kind of allowed and non-stigmatized, I mean, it was so hard to get a date. I probably had one person set me up in a full year and before online dating came. So it's like people are always going to complain about everything, but it's still better than it was. So that's one, I guess, area of hope. But more for the, as far as making it work for you, I think it's just being really pragmatic about your approach and deciding, okay, I'm going to date in the month of July. This is going to be my dating month. I'm going to go on 2 dates a week, and I'm going to do it 4 weeks in a row. And, I'm going to probably meet 8 people, and maybe I'll like 2 of them. And so it's like you have to actually meet people in person to find a significant other. And so I think people forget that, and they're like, get trapped in the swiping and the messaging, but it's like just start engaging and it will work. It's like any other process. And I think at least with the league, we do see that a really high percentage of matches do right back and are very much there with high intent to find a relationship. So it's just like stay with it, give it 2 months and don't be so picky. Like be a little bit open-minded, and who knows, someone will surprise you. Maybe they're 1 inch below your height preference, but hey, they're still a great person. And so it's like, kind of just getting out of your head a little bit.
What's a question we should have asked you that we didn't?
You should have asked me you should ask me about my first date with Jeremy, because I actually told him I had changed my location to LA. He didn't know that I was in San Francisco. And then I booked a flight for our first date without telling him I was there for work. But he was actually, that because I knew the dating market, and I was like, I got to grab this one up. I gotta go. So I was like,
Did you know that? Oh,
no.
Oh wow. Okay.
He was like, wait, so now it says your location's in San Francisco. What's up with that? And I was like, oh, well, we'll talk about it at drinks. So I'm not endorsing lying.
How long have you
Yeah, our
been together? How long
relationship
have you
was
been
built
together?
on a lie. It'll be 2 years in November, so.
Congratulations.
But so I'm not endorsing to lie, but I am endorsing to just be, like, take risks. You don't have to be so in your box, Maybe you take a $150 flight to LA for a weekend and go on 3 dates. Who knows, So it's just like kind of live a little with it.
So who are the people that you spend time listening to or watching on social networks that inspire you?
I know you want me to say Gary Vee. No.
Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss are like, oh, they make my heart hurt.
I am not a huge social media person. I'm weird. I actually like reading Quora, Medium, and Twitter. So I like kind of the weird, quirky ones, I guess. And I was saying the one follower I like on Twitter is this B2B software guy, Jason Lemkin. But I like him because I think whatever he does, he programs his buffer account or whatever to send out some inspirational quote every day. But it always seems to be coming to me exactly when I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I want to quit. And it's always like, you're feeling like you want to quit? Take your head up and hire a new VP of sales. It'll help. It's like very like tactical and actionable. And I'm like, you're right. I do need VP of sales. I'm like, we're not B2B, but I'm like, I need a new marketing person. So like he just gives you he makes you feel like you're not alone and he's been through it. And so it's kind of like a therapist that I don't actually have to talk to.
Amanda, this has been incredible. You were candid about all this stuff, and you were just a great guest. So thank you for joining us here today.
This was fun. Thank you, guys.
We're gonna wrap up now, and then we're gonna
have our online dating story in a minute.
Yeah.
So don't leave
Don't
just
leave
yet.
But before we wrap up, if you don't know, Sunil and I have been working together for the last couple of years on this podcast.
It's actually only a year, FYI.
It feels like a couple of years that I've been working with Sunil on this podcast. And we really like hanging out with each other, so much so that we tweet each other all the time. And we wanted to invite everybody here, if you like this podcast, to actually hop onto Twitter and hit up Sunil at Subs01. He's the first of all of the Subs on Twitter. Or hit me up at Kaykas, K-A-Y-K-A-S. And let us know what you thought about the podcast. If you think about other guests that you'd like to have on or hear from, or things that are in the Bay Area that are important topics for you.
Put another way, if you take a picture of this and tweet it out, we'd appreciate it. It's promo for the podcast.
We can turn it into a singles mixer next time.
A singles mixer. Almost as important as a singles mixer is how you go back to the place that you hear this podcast when you hear it and write a review and rank us 5 stars, because when you do that, it's actually going to help a lot more people find this podcast as well. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Beta Brand for hosting us this evening. Thank you to our producers, Chris Torres Cruz, who helps us book all of our guests. And thank you to everybody here in the audience. Have a great evening.
To Lisa Fetterman for introducing us to Amanda as well, our guest today.
Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. One big round of applause. Thank you to everybody.
We're kicking you off stage.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that was so fun.
We still need we're gonna record our But Amanda has to be at another event, and we got her out on time.
Right on time.
2 minutes.
Thanks. Okay, so let's we want.
You can hand that out to the crowd.
Is this? Oh yeah, there we go. We want a brave soul up here, and
I saw a gentleman with a gray shirt right there in the back. Oh,
Decline.
no! Oh, you were? Wait, let's tell that story.
So we're looking for a brave soul to share an hopefully a really colorful online dating story.
To be clear, it's
maybe
totally anonymous.
something.
You don't have to say your real name.
And we're trying to avoid conflicts of interest. Well, let's just look at hands.
Look at the green shirt in the back.
We have red. We have two kind of. We could bring 2 people up.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so we have Jess and we have Annette. Come on up.
Those are the made-up names or real names? That was pretty good, Zanil. You found that right away.
All right, and so I don't know how we're...
Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to grab another chair.
Are we going to huddle?
Hop right up in this chair.
All right, so we're going to make this entire thing about online dating, and so if you could introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Jess Osorio. Hi, I'm Annette Bloom.
I'll share this.
Okay.
Thanks for doing this in front of a room full of strangers. So I'll just ask one question. Tell us your online dating story, please, and why is it colorful?
I'm married now. Met my husband on OkCupid. I love when our guest said be pragmatic and just have a plan. I went on for 48 hours and I was like, I don't have time for this in my life. I'm just going to get on, line up 5 dates, and we'll see what happens. And I did that because I'm sure we've got a lot of females in the audience. There's a lot of like ping, 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 nonstop. Like you just can't, there's too much. There's too much time in the day, or there's not enough time in the day. You don't have, it's just, yeah, there's a lot of follow-up that you don't have time for. So I went in and I was like, 5 dates, that's it. One of those 5 was my now husband, and I love how she mentioned not being in the same industry. So his profile was all about who he is, and mine was all about who I am, not what we're looking for. So that was something that resonated with me. And I'm in marketing, and he's in radiation health physics. What? Like, what is that? And so our first date was like a lot of just teaching each other what we do, which was like new for both of us. And anyways, we meet up in some wine bar in Mountain View, and the rest is history. I don't know. It turned into a sushi date.
Oh, we gotta have the drama story though. Where's the story arc? Like, what's the thing that happened that?
Okay. Here's some key takeaways for the ladies. I'm from Miami, so like girls in Miami never chase guys. I don't know about anywhere else in the States, but like we don't chase guys, like they chase us, right? Like like our guest talked about, girls won't reply or send a message for days. This was the first time in my entire life where I was like, you know what? I haven't heard from him all weekend. I'm gonna reach out on Monday. His excuse was, you said you were gonna be out of town. And I was out of town, but I was like, you said it was a great date. What's the deal, right? So Monday came around. Our first date was like on a Thursday. Monday came around, and I'm like, hello, remember me? And he's like, of course I do. And our second date was, we went from Mountain View to Redwood City. And he had not 1, not 2, but 6 mixed CDs, because, we're ahead of tapes. And 6 mixed CDs where he's like, I know you like metal and alternative, so here's 3 alternative and here's 3 metal.
What year was this? Mixed CDs? Mixed CDs are like from a long time ago, right?
2015.
That's not that long ago. See, that's what I'm saying. No, that came out the wrong way. No, I'm not trying to imply that this person is...
2015. So I was like, oh, he for sure likes me. It's in the bag. He made me CDs. So, yeah, I mean, like...
You'd do it again. Do the same thing all over again.
Would I do it again?
Yeah. If you had to wind back the clock, would you start the same way? Do you go
like
five chances, 5 days, whatever the shtick was that you did?
Yeah, this is the advice I give my single ladies in their 30s. I'm just like, I love how she said, be pragmatic, have a plan. Like, don't be on there every day, 24/7, trying to... communicate with everyone who's trying to communicate with you. Like, just get in there and be organized. Like, here's 5 dates for the week. I'm gonna log off, give myself some mental like space to just like unwind and approach it like that, and then see what happens, and give yourself the space to go on those dates and be present, right? Because if you're on 5 dates that week, but you've got 30 people pinging you at the same time, you're not present. You're not really there in that moment. So yes, I would do it again, but very strategic, like just.
All right, Annette, you're sitting up here very patiently, and you've got your hands on your thighs because. Yeah, there you go. No, I just don't want you to keep you sitting there waiting.
Okay. Hi,
Can you-
everyone. So my story, I have two stories, actually. They're slightly different and hopefully at least entertaining, if not good lessons. So there's one slightly less positive story and one more positive story. So
Just for listeners, you were flashing out.
I'm flashing a ring.
Yeah.
So I would say that I am a very seasoned online dater from the days when I used to live in New York back a long time ago, because I'm old. I went on 5 million dates with every Jewish guy in New York, I think. And
Those numbers should work per what Amanda said, right?
from what she said, I should have
pipeline.
been married, but somehow I missed the one. And I then moved to LA to go to grad school. I moved to the Bay Area and I found myself single and gave myself 3 months to go on JDate. It was kind of before Tinder and everything really got big. So I was on JDate and I was about to quit, and I got a message, not from a man, but from a woman around my mother's age, who said, I'm on JDate for myself, I'm divorced, I've been looking, I'm getting fed up with it, so I decided to look for someone that I thought my son might like. He's an amazing guy, he's so handsome, he has a good job, he's so kind, he loves animals, whatever. Like any Jewish mom, she really sold this guy. And I was like, I don't know about this. But I was living with some roommates, and they were like, listen, you have to stop making Safeway your main social activity.
That's
so
really good, yeah.
I said, fine. Why don't you give him my email address? I'll communicate with him, and then we can try to go out. So he and I we emailed a few times, finally made it work to meet up. I thought it went really well. Apparently, he thought I ran away from him after the date, so it took him a while to call me. But we ended up dating for a significant period of time. Long story short, turns out it was him the whole time.
Oh!
Wow.
Zing.
And
wow.
he wouldn't introduce me to his mother until he admitted that. So I found out within a couple months that he had made up this story that he thought would, and it turns out it was a huge red flag, because that wasn't the only thing that he did not disclose. But
What?
But is that
Keep going.
wait, yeah. Is that technically catfishing? That's not catfishing, is it?
I don't know if catfishing, maybe it was, I don't know. No, I guess
That's
it's not.
weird.
It's just kind of weird. Yeah, the other thing that he didn't disclose, it's not important, but let's just say we're not together anymore. And
You can't do that.
there were
Wait,
just,
that was the breaking point. Not when he said, I'm my mom, but when he did something else.
yeah. I mean, there were a lot of really great things about him. I thought, yes, that was the bad story. Anyway, hopefully it's entertaining, and for those of you who are out there, maybe it's just one thing to look for if someone's parent approaches you online. So the more positive story, in my opinion, it starts in real life, IRL. Many, many, many years ago, much before the JDate mother experience, when I was in college, and I developed a massive crush on a guy who was a mutual friend of, we were in a similar friend group. I had a crush, he knew I existed, basically. He was not in love, let's say. But I was convinced that he knew, that he had heard me talking about him. And so I thought he knew that I was very much into him. But we weren't close, we didn't stay in touch. After he graduated and I graduated, we saw each other a couple times at a wedding and something else, but he lived in the Bay Area, I lived in New York. When I moved to LA, I saw him one time. He was dating someone, as was I. I moved to the Bay Area, ran into him on the Embarcadero. We became friends on Facebook, never once talked. Fast forward about 5 years from that interaction on the Embarcadero, and I'm in the dating world and about to sort of give up. Like, I'd been pragmatic, I'd been social, I'd reached out to people, I used the fake startup. I'd used all of them. And I was kind of flipping through and really getting ready to delete the app from my phone. I was thinking, like, I'm happy with my life. I have great friends, I have a job, I have great family. Like, when it happens, it'll happen. I'm not gonna keep swiping. And then I saw this guy, my crush from my freshman year of college, on the app. And I thought, you know, he's probably friends with someone who works here and he's just testing it for them, because I'm sure he's not even single. I'm sure he's just doing them a favor to see what the UX is. So, but I thought, well, I'm not really looking to date. I don't care. He seems like a nice guy. I watch him on Facebook. He does cool things. He knows how to surf, and he's still friends with all his friends from college, so he must be nice. So I just swiped just to see, and it turns out it was a match. But because it was on Bumble, I had to say something first. And I thought, well, I know he knows that I loved him in my freshman year, so I'm just gonna say something kind of funny about that. So my first message to him was something like, my freshman year self is jumping up and down with joy right now. And he claims that he did not remember this crush at all. He barely remembered who I was, to be honest. But he, and then I left and went out of town actually for the weekend. And I got back, that was on a Thursday. I got back on a Sunday and he had messaged me back. And we started chatting a little bit, and friendly, very friendly. He invited me to go to a Warriors game the next night. So I was like, okay, cool, we're in. And we went to the game, and he was like, hey, buddy, what's up? And I was like, cool, he must actually be a test user for this site. So nothing happened, and we kind of moved our communication off the app, but it took me a while, and eventually I convinced him to come over and watch Game of Thrones with me on Netflix. And once he came over and watched some Netflix, I sealed the deal.
There we go. Nothing says I love you like Game of Thrones. Yes.
And that was the only episode of Game of Thrones we ever watched together.
So here's what I think you should do. That first story, you should make a podcast about that first story. You really should. That's incredible. And you should have Chris and the folks at Beta Brand host it.
I would love to.
And that would be incredible.
I'm happy to take it. There are more details that I can make it.
This is just not. You can't do this.
I know, you're like,
well, I was trying to keep it short.
We're gonna close out the episode on just one more detail that you can share with. Just one. Just give us a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, you'll have to listen to the podcast.
Something small.
Oh, something small.
Annette, you've come this far.
I'm trying to think of something that won't ruin my podcast. I'll just put it this way. When we started dating, this person lived in a very nice house in Burlingame, and he had every single kitchen appliance you could possibly imagine. In my mind, as a young single woman, I thought these are only things that you get from a registry. So I was convinced that he was divorced and not telling me, or had another family and was not telling me. And it turns out he just liked to buy things on a whim and then not use them but put them in his kitchen.
Well, I'm certainly going to tune into the podcast. There's no doubt.
Well, thank you two, for sharing your stories, Jess and Annette. Round of applause, please. All right, so that is officially the end of the show. Thank you for coming out and supporting. We really appreciate you listening to us today. Thanks again to Beta Brand, and we'll hopefully get you as new listeners to This Is Your Life in Silicon Valley.
Thanks very much. Have a great night.